This is Red October, a game filled with stress, happiness, game times where you just want to turn the game off, and then there's other times where you just can't look away. What an outstanding game. Horrible in the beginning, but then just the Phillies, they didn't quit. A 7-6 victory, walk-off single by Nick Castellanos, the MVP of the game, in my opinion. 3 for 5, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, had that walk-off. I mean, guys, what was your thought process during this entire game? Because I know I was about to have a heart attack at certain points.
Absolutely. Most stressful Phillies game I've ever watched. My thought process changed quite a few times. You nailed it in the pregame. You said it's going to look like the offense is dead, and then they come alive in the second half, and that's exactly what happened. They were dead through 6 2/3 innings, and then Harper does what he does, home run to, like Luke and I said, Harper gets the scoring started, 2-run homer. Luke and I hit our parlay, by the way. So hooray for us.
You went 3 for 3, right?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, because Severino got his strikeouts, Harper got his home run, and the Phillies won by – no, we had Phillies 1.5. Dang it.
It was 1.5.
Spoke. Because we said it
near the lines.
Anyway, thought process was the most chaotic thing ever. And then we all thought Stott's triple was the nail in the coffin, but the 8th and 9th inning Mets in 2024 are the greatest baseball team known to man. And then I'm just so proud of them for coming back in the 9th. I was saying to Parker and Luke, I'm so terrified of the Mets getting to hit again in the 10th. Like, please just end it now. Don't let the Mets bat again. And they didn't. They finished it in the 9th, which I think is what they needed to do. And they survive is all this is. You split in Philly. That's still not even a win, but you just survive.
Yeah, they gave up game 1. Obviously, they gave up home court, but I mean, this is what a game. I mean, what I was thinking during that game, I couldn't tell you. It's gone. It's in one ear, out the other, and just the fact that they won that really just made my entire evening. It saved their season, honestly. So just an amazing win right there.
You were thinking about 3-2. You were thinking about full counts the whole time.
Yeah,
that was.
Of course, they had to put the most amount of pressure on the situation as possible.
Parker's like, how many full counts are we going to have?
Every time. No full counts the entire game until once it started to get good. And the Phillies were actually disciplined and started drawing full counts. But I did not want the game to go to the 10th inning. I said, just get Bryce Harper up, please. Because then I was like, all right, if Harper gets up, I think we end it here. But if we get to the 10th, we had Allard, Banks, and Alvarado left out of the bullpen. And the bullpen struggled too, which we'll get into in a little bit. But glad it didn't get to that point because Nick Castellanos, awesome moment. Had that moment earlier in the game where the fans were booing him. And he gets an Alec Boe moment where he gets caught mouthing these effing people. And then has the game of his life, 3 for 5. That home run right after Harper's, the back-to-back. And then the walk-off. Just the vibes are high. And I feel like the Phillies going into New York, they have that momentum now. I'd rather win game 2 than game 1 going into New York.
Yeah, if you're going to split, you would rather do it this way. Yeah, obviously you'd rather take both of them. But of the options, I would say this is, I agree. The momentum is good. And now game 3 basically decides the series. That's pretty much the turning point, whoever wins that. I was so worried that the Harper line drive that was a foot foul was going to go down in Philly history as just another one of the so close moments, the thousands that we have. And so I was so thankful that Cassidy came through and we didn't have to think about being that close with Harper.
Yeah, Cassidy was unbelievable. MVP, like you said, Tyler, of the game. He came through clutch, and Harper had his opportunity, and they didn't want to pitch to him. They were too scared of him, which rightfully so. I mean, if I was the Mets, I probably wouldn't have pitched to him either. But Cassidy, he was on cleanup duty, and he really had Harper's back there. It was so cool to see. I mean, they were feeding off of each other the entire game. You could just tell because Cassidy got hot early, and then once Harper hit that home run, Cassidy fed off of that, and they went back to back in the 6th, and then same thing. Once Harper got on base, it was like Cassie's just going to do something special. I mean, 3 for 5 is unbelievable, especially in a playoff game. That's just so clutch.
And being clutch in the baseball playoffs is one of the most important things, because if you just can't perform, then your team is probably not going to win. But the Phillies have guys that perform in the postseason. Bryce Harper just tied Kyle Schwarber for the most home runs in Phillies postseason history. You got Trey Turner, who was, I would say he had an okay game, did swing at a lot of outside pitches. I mean, that's normal Trey Turner stuff, but Harper and Castellanos and Stott. Let's get to Bryson Stott, because we've been talking about Harper, we're talking about Castellanos, but the unsung hero of this game very well could be Bryson Stott. 2 for 4 on his birthday, had that the triple against Edwin Diaz in the 8th inning. Didn't get the bonus bet with his home run, but you know what? That didn't matter, because he was awesome tonight. Had that great play in the field. I don't know how he caught that, made that leaping, kind of reminded me of Chase Utley. And I've been saying for a while that Bryson Stott just shows flashes of Utley. He doesn't look exactly like him, but shows flashes of it. So Bryson Stott, the unsung hero of today's game.
If the Phillies hold on in the 9th inning, that triple goes down as such a legendary hit, because to be, obviously Cassidy's hit is great, walk-off, amazing. It was tied. Stott, we were down, and he gives them the lead with such dramatic fashion. Still, obviously, we'll remember it as one of the great hits. Maybe the baseball community, it won't last as long with them. But yeah, the birthday boy coming through with that triple, him standing on third base, the slow-mo of him just beating his chest, screaming to the dugout was incredible. And he'd been struggling too, like we talked about in the pregame, of him and Bohm being the benching candidates, because they've both been struggling, and it's a good thing Stott was in there.
Yeah, and doing that on your birthday, that's awesome. That's just something that it doesn't even happen for some players once a year. So
you have to, for baseball players, you have to have it in that window.
And especially, I mean, you're born in October, like you're born for this moment. Ever since you've been going up through little leagues, up into the minors, the majors, it's like, man, your birthday's in October. You never know if you could have this opportunity, and just to actually capture the moment like this, feel like Eminem, like you only get one shot, and he did not miss this chance to blow.
He certainly did not. But go into the keys to the game. Parker, you get Luke's assignment once again. Talking about the bullpen, that was Luke's key for today. Bullpen struggled again. 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 5 strikeouts. I want to hear your thoughts, because I am not confident in Rob Thompson's management of the bullpen so far. I feel like he's made some pretty awful choices throughout these first 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, they started with who? Ruiz? They put Ruiz in there. And then Alonso just took him. He took him the yard right away. That was just, I felt like a bad sign right off the bat. It was like you're getting off on the wrong foot with this bullpen. They struggled last game, obviously. And so I feel like that just carried over. And so you started off with just a homer on Ruiz. And then you put in, who was it? Hoffman? You put in
Strom
came in next.
And Kirkering gave up the Nimmo home run, and then Strom gave up the Vientos home run.
Yeah.
A lot of home runs.
So the guys didn't do their job. I mean, we were saying earlier that I feel like the bullpen has been, I mean, it's supposed to be deeper than it has been over the last 10 seasons. But they didn't deliver, and you really can't have that, because the Mets have been hitting extremely well in the 8th and 9th innings. And so that's when you're going to be against the bullpen. And the fact that the bullpen gave up that many runs is just unbelievable. It really is bad.
And I don't know how you fix it.
It's not even like, I mean, he's making bad choices, but the bullpen is also nobody's pitching well. And I think Kirkering is just young. You saw last year, he was not that good in the playoffs. There's times where Rob brought him in high leverage situations, and he just completely collapsed. Gave up, what was it, one run today, 2 runs? He gave up 1 run, strike out 3. But I'm a little less trusted of Kerkering. I don't think he should be in any high leverage spots. I would save that for Hoffman and Estevez. Just leave it to them. But yeah, I don't know how you really fix that issue. I mean, 4 runs today and the runs yesterday. It was right after the starters were pulled. I don't know why Christopher Sanchez was pulled, and that was my key to the game. And Sanchez was phenomenal. 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. It's not the greatest stat line, but if you were watching the game, you knew how much of an impact he actually had. He was on point. He was forcing a lot of contact, and he was getting a lot of swings and misses with that changeup, like they said in the broadcast. He has one of the best, if not the best, changeups in the entire league, but had less than 83 pitches, 82 pitches, something like that.
It's high 80s. Yeah, he didn't touch 90.
No, and that's why I was hoping that they bring him in for one more inning, because at latest he would pitch in game 5. But I heard the broadcast say that Suarez is in line to start game 4. So I don't know how I feel about that. So Sanchez might not even pitch for the rest of the series, at least starting a game. But I just think he did phenomenal tonight.
Yeah, he was amazing. Like you said, yeah, just like the battles that he had with the Mets hitters, it felt like he never really was out of any at bats. Like he was pretty much in control. He did give up the 2 runs, but it never really felt like super concerning in any situations. He always had it under control. Yeah, I wasn't too upset that they pulled him, because I'm assuming that he'll get used later in the series. But yeah, if Suarez is in line to start game 4, that's an interesting decision down the road. We'll see. But yeah, he did great. A good decision by Topper to pitch him, because now we can throw Nola in New York. I think everybody feels very good about that. So Sanchez absolutely did his job.
Yeah, I love my man Sanchez. He looks cool, calm, and collected. And that's all you need out of your pitcher. He did give up the 2 runs, but I mean, he went 5 innings and he pitched very well. He was getting ahead in counts, I felt like, pretty consistently. He was getting first ball strikes a lot. So very impressive, and I was happy with how he played for sure. And
you get Aaron Nola next game. His career, his 14 starts at Citi Field, a 3.28 ERA, a 1.035 whip. So does have some success against the Mets in New York. So starting pitching is looking very good so far for the Phillies. But Owen, talking about pitching, let's get to your key, where you said just hit. And the Phillies certainly did that. 7 runs, 10 hits, the 2 home runs, and then the walk-off. So what did you see from the bats tonight that you enjoyed the most?
They decided to really stress us out for the first half of the game by not hitting at all. And then all of a sudden, the switch just flipped. And we were saying that while we were watching the game, how it just seems like the offense is contagious, because you're like, it's crazy how all of them are struggling at once and how that's contagious. And we were like, but if it gets started, it seems like the good is contagious, just like the bad is. And it absolutely was. Harper home run, Cassie home run. And then like from there, it seemed like the switch just flipped and all of a sudden everybody's hitting now. I don't know how that works at all, but I will take it. So yeah, the last 3+ innings, they were finally hitting, and it was just such a relief, and just felt so much like, oh, this is the Phillies team that we know. This is back to normal. They were, working good at bats. They still swung at a few pitches outside the zone, but that's going to happen. Like they had much better at bats. They were hitting the ball harder. They hit home runs, which is obviously going to be the big thing with the Phillies every time. But yeah, just fantastic all around offense. And if the offense is clicking, I think we all feel so much better. Even the pitching is great. You need good pitching in the playoffs. But with the Phillies, especially against the Mets, it feels like our offense versus their offense. If we get into a shootout type of game, we can win that. It's a little bit more scary when it's a pitching duel like we saw in game 1. So they got to keep hitting now in New York.
Yeah, Harper, you can tell that he is the lifeblood of the team. When he goes, the team goes. And to see him get that home run, and even like he was picking the team up on defense too. He had a couple good plays early on defense there on first base, and he was showing that Golden Glove potential, maybe in the future. But it was very impressive to see Bryce Harper do that. And he really just started off the hitting, and they continued from that. And so it was cool just to see him kick off the team. Once you get the crowd into it, I mean, you can just ride that wave, and it was so cool to watch. And it really made a big impact on him.
When Bryce Harper is doing well, the rest of the team is doing well. So to see him lead by that, yesterday he said we need to hit a switch with this offense. He comes out, hits the home run, and then the team follows right behind him. And it's just awesome to see. I love seeing the best player on the team provide in the playoffs, especially when it's the Phillies and it's Bryce Harper. But just tremendous stuff all around from the offense today. We got Sean checking in, host of the Corner Pub Sports pregame show on Heat Ratio Sports. So make sure you're checking that out every Sunday. He said, hopefully this will wake them up going forward. I think it is going to wake them up going forward. I think that the offense isn't going to be dead for the rest of this series. Sean Manaea, I think, is supposed to pitch. They haven't officially announced the starter, but based off of their playoff rotation so far, it would seem as if Manaea is going to get the start. And he doesn't do particularly well against the Phillies or in the playoffs. So we'll get to that. Obviously, that could be all smokescreen. They could come out and start David Peterson for all we know. But something that we do know is that we hit a lot of bets tonight. So let's see what we cooked up for the triple plays of the night. And the all Philly all the time, this close from a triple play. Phillies up -1.5. That was a good bet. It was looking like it was going to hit in the ninth, but still, that's a really good betting line right there.
Yeah, we thought we had it. I forgot earlier when I said we hit it because we thought, once the Phillies were up 6-4, we were like, we got the Harper home run. That was the most unlikely. We got that. We're good. Severino had 4 Ks after like 2 innings or something ridiculous. And then, we'll take a win. A Phillies win is more important than hitting the betting line. So we're still happy.
Yeah. I mean, getting the Harper home run in there, that was huge. I think we got to go a little higher though on our strikeouts because
we've been low.
Yeah. We'll learn from that next time. And then it'll probably be like 4 Ks and we'll say 5. So
that's what always happens. You bet the over and it smashes the under. You bet the under and it smashes the over. So, I mean, that's just betting world. That's how it works. But Sanchez, 5 strikeouts, that hit. Edmundo Sosa did not look good today. Had that throwing error in the field and was 0 for 2, was chasing a lot of pitches. Alec Boehm didn't look much better than him. He came in, pinch hit, first pitch, he popped out, and then he popped out again. So I'm sure Boehm is going to start next game, but I don't know do you have Bryson Stott over him in the lineup? At this point, I would. I honestly would. I would keep him in that 6th spot. But Castellanos getting the RBI, that hit. I got 2 of those, so 2 for 3 on each. So 4 for 6. That's a really good deal. Make sure you're going to Win Daily. Use that code Jigsaw. You get 75% off a yearly membership. This is only good for a week, so make sure you are checking that out. So, I mean, there's not really much to talk about outside of the Phillies. So, final thoughts going forward. What are we expecting to see in games 3 and 4?
Game 3 is the big one. Game 3 is basically for the series. I'm sure leading up to the game and during the broadcast, they always have the stat of like 70% of teams that win Game 3 in a best of 5 win the series, or sometimes even more than 70%. It could be 80%. High percentage of teams that win that Game 3 go on to win the best of 5. So we know that game is going to be huge. I'm sure Citi Field will be rocking, not quite as much as Citizens Bank, but Mets fans, give them credit. Mets fans can get loud. So that stadium's going to be crazy. Hopefully the Phillies can have some momentum and actually jump out to a bigger than 1-0 lead this time. because that wasn't enough in the first game. But if they can jump out early, maybe settle the Mets crowd down a little bit, and then Nola is able to settle in and get rolling, that would be ideal. As far as what to expect in New York, it's going to be just as insane as these 2 games in Philly. Like, I don't think we can expect any games that aren't nail biters, down to the wire, crazy comebacks. Like, this series is just going to be nuts every single game that's played.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the bats they're moving now. They're heating up. October's getting a little hot, so I'm looking for some high scoring games coming up in New York. I think obviously I love the Phillies, so I expect them to win 1 out of 2. I don't know if it'll be game 3 or 4, but I feel good about them. They have the momentum, so I could see Nola really carrying that over as long as the bullpen survives in game 3. I mean, they just have to be average. Like, just don't give up 3 home runs, like, please. And if that's the case, I mean, the Phillies are looking really good.
Nola could do the same thing Wheeler did, go 7 shutty. And if the offense doesn't score like 4 or 5 in that time, we won't feel safe.
I am concerned with the home runs because Mets wasn't it all of their runs today were from home runs?
Yeah.
Vientos
with 2 and
home runs. Yeah. But Nola, we all know him with the home runs. So I am a little bit concerned with that, but we'll get more into that on Tuesday. I'm trying to see if Mendoza has named the starter yet for game 3. It says the Mets currently don't have a starter right now. So we'll see. Like I've been saying, I'm expecting it to be Sean Manaea. McGill pitched today. Peterson pitched yesterday. I don't think they would have him start a game. I don't think they want to do another bullpen game. But really the only person that makes sense is Sean Manaea. Maybe Jose Quintana. But I feel like either way, it's going to be a lefty. So I anticipate one of those 2 guys. Billy saw Quintana in the 2022 wild card series against the Cardinals. And I believe he shut them down.
He did,
So anticipate the Phillies to go against a lefty. We got CC checking in. Says, I still don't think you can say the bats are hot. That's crazy. Bullpen is not the concern here. It's the bats. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think that the Phillies offense is so weird that I think you can say the bats are hot because for some reason they just turn on a dime and it doesn't make any sense. But it seems like it's really all it takes with this offense is one game like this and they're good. And they can also, same way it goes the other way. Like they can be hot, boom, they're freezing cold. So it works both ways. But we've seen them just, they randomly get hot and then they're good to go. So maybe they're not like hot because they'll have an off day, but I'm definitely more confident in the bats at this point than the bullpen.
Yeah, bullpen looked horrible. So, I mean, I'm still worried about them hitting because they were hitting towards the second half of this game. That's a pretty small sample size, half of one baseball game. So you have a very valid point, but the bullpen looked horrible. You're giving up runs like that. And it really, really concerns me because they're playing for a minority of the game and you got to survive that minority. You've seen it in the past postseason with the Phillies. It's been an issue and I just don't want that to continue.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the bullpen is 100% the main concern. I'm not worried about the starting pitching. I am concerned with the bats, but today was a good sign. Bullpen is the only thing that's looked awful in both games. So I'm with you guys on that. Got Rob checking in. He said, we got the big Mo back, boys. F the Mets. We're at October. I'm pumped up about that win too, man. I can't stand the Mets. I don't know if Owen knows this story. I had an altercation with some Mets fans at Citi Field, but Brian laugh. Let's be honest. Mets lost due to infield errors tonight. Do we agree or do we disagree?
I mean, the Phillies got their insurance run to make it 6-4 instead of 5-4 from an infield error. So that was huge because if they don't get that, then the Vientos home run puts the Mets ahead, and then the Castellanos ties it. Like it's crazy from there. So that's pretty much what cost the Mets that, and their bullpen finally not being as strong as they have been against the Phillies. But yeah, that infield error by Vientos was huge.
It was a huge play for sure.
Yeah, and Lindor had that bobble too. So they a little bit concerning in the field for the Mets. They're usually a very good defensive team. That's the whole reason people were arguing that Lindor should be in somewhat contention with Shohei Ohtani. Oh, well, he plays really good defense. Didn't really play that great of a defense tonight. Really cost the Mets. But CC says not hot. Got a spark, which is a different thing altogether. We can't start so slowly at the plate, and I expect to win. 100% agree, especially in New York. You're not in Philly. If you get that one big hit in New York, you're still on the road. The Phillies aren't the greatest road team by any means. They're close to 500 on the road. So you're at home. You get that one big hit. You have the fans behind you. Everybody gets fired up. So you need to really get on the Mets early in Game 3, because if you don't, I really don't think they're going to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed that. I would say a spark is pretty hot. If you've ever been around a campfire, you get a spark on you. They hurt. It's a spark is hot and can start a fire. So I'm good with a spark. I'll take it. After what we've seen, I love a spark in the offense. Bullpen needs a spark now somehow. But yeah, definitely you have to start out quick in New York. Totally agree with that.
What are your thoughts on, we haven't seen Alvarado out of the bullpen. What are your thoughts on that? Do we want to put him in? Like, is he pretty cold?
I think he's just too much of a wild card. He could be the best reliever on both teams. He could also be the worst reliever on both teams. He's just so wild with his pitches. If he finds that location, then he's on point. But that's a 50-50 shot. And I don't think Rob Thompson at this point trusts him in any sort of high leverage situation. So, I mean, I feel like with how much everybody pitched today, I feel like he was holding on to Tanner Banks and Colby Allard, because I feel like he might trust them more than Alvarado at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think with how poorly the rest of the bullpen has performed, that should increase the chances we see Alvarado later in the series, just because it's like, well, no one else is getting it done. Estevez is the only one who had a clean inning that we trust. So that could increase his chances. Yeah. Unleashing.
What was Rob Thompson doing, pulling him in the 8th inning? Mendoza left Edwin Diaz, and he trusts his guy. Why would Rob Thompson not keep him in? He had 8 pitches today. He didn't pitch yesterday. Why would you not bring in the guy you brought in to be your closer? Why would you not keep him in that closing role?
I don't know if if he got stuck on like 6 outs is a lot of outs, but when he got the first 3 outs so effortlessly that I think he totally could have gone back. So hindsight 2020 definitely would have left him in.
And then we got Ryan. He said, did Kyle hold his swing, or was that a blown call?
I think he went.
I did think he went.
It was close, but they showed the replay after, and
he didn't fight it too much either. I feel like he would have blown up on the ump if he felt like that was a missed call right there.
When they first showed the first replay, it was a horrible angle. I'm like, what? I can't even tell if that's even close or not. And then they showed another thing, and then Schwarber dropped his bat instantly, like he knew.
It was just a little break of the wrist. Like his hands were fine, and then just a little turn, and that was it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Rob says, what's going on with JT? He needs to be more patient at bat. So what are your guys' thoughts on JT?
Yeah, we were saying he was due, and he didn't have a great. He had that dribbler to third base that ended up working out, but yeah, he hasn't been hitting great. He always is weird. Speaking of like hot and cold, it seems like his timing with his timing of pitches, like sometimes it's on and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, he's just not going to hit well, which has always been really strange to me. But that's just how JT is, it seems. So yeah, I think he needs to be more patient at bat. Before the 6th inning, everybody needed to be more patient at bat. So hopefully everybody else can kind of rub off on him. If they're being patient, then he feels less pressure and he can be more patient.
Yeah, I need to see more out of JT. He had another bad game. That's a string of bad games. So he really needs to step up.
I 100% agree. And then CC said, back to Alvarado. He's Alvarado's biggest fan, but it's telling he hasn't pitched yet. I think this tells us he isn't looking good behind the scenes. He did step away from the club close end of August, early September for personal issues. Didn't really pitch a ton when he came back, but I just don't think he's very valued in this bullpen. That's my I just don't think he's valued by Rob Thompson.
Yeah, exactly what you said earlier. It's pretty telling, the lack of usage for Alvarado, because it is hard to trust him in those spots because in this such a small, and now that we're tied 1-1, it's a 3-game series. There's such a small window with these games where if you have one blow up inning for Alvarado where he loses control, could cost you the game and end up costing you the series. So it's super risky.
Yeah, it must be so hard to be a manager. I mean,
oh yeah,
like trust is such a huge thing, because if I'm putting myself in Rob Thompson's shoes, it's like, okay, I'd much rather a guy I trust get homered on than a guy that I'm feeling iffy about. It's like, I don't know if I should put this guy out here, and then he gives up a couple runs. You're like, what am I doing? I'm so dumb. Where it's like, if you trust a guy, it's like, you can at least take it a little bit better, because it's like, while they've proven in the past that they're good in high leverage spots, it is what it is. It didn't work out today, but if you risk it, it just doesn't make sense.
And we are getting breaking news here. The Game 3 starter has been announced. Per Anthony DiComo, Carlos Mendoza has announced that Sean Manaea is the Mets Game 3 starter. He says he'll be on regular rest. And then he says Jose Quintana will obviously start Game 4, but he says the Mets have been very lenient of not announcing anything too early. So it will be Aaron Nola and Sean Manaea. I know Manaea doesn't have a great history against the Phillies. I know doesn't have a great history against them in the playoffs. Had that one game with the Padres. I believe that was Game 3 or 4, or when the Rhys Hoskins hit the home run off of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to need Alvarado in the next 2 games. Hasn't pitched. I feel like we'll see him. I mean, look at Taijuan Walker last year. They brought in Michael Lorenzen over him, and people would argue that Walker was better than Lorenzen, minus the no-hitter last season. And so I think Rob is not afraid to not pitch someone if he really doesn't trust them. So I do agree we may need him, especially with the lefties. He's a hard-throwing lefty. But that's the thing with the Mets. They don't have a lefty-heavy lineup. You'll face Nimmo. Lindor's a switch hitter, and that's really it. They usually do fairly well against lefties. P. Alonso, righty. Mark Vientos, righty. Lindor, switch. Iglesias, righty. They have so many righties that you're not going to see a ton of left-handed bullpen guys, except for Strahm, just because Strahm is the guy from the bullpen.
Mm-hmm. And Strahm has reverse splits anyway, so it doesn't. Yeah, yeah. I think that Nola, all the starting pitchers, just the rest of the series, we already count on them. We're going to be counting on them even more, because any of the guys we go to in the bullpen, we're going to be concerned until we see them prove to us that they can have a clean inning, they can do well. So whether it's Alvarado, whether it's Hoffman, Strahm, I'm going to be nervous whoever comes into the game out of the bullpen. It'd be great to get Alvarado in if we're able to go up multiple runs on the Mets. I mean, even Alvarado pitching with a lead, then you're thinking like, oh, we might blow the lead again. But if we're up big enough, it'd be nice to get Alvarado in, just so you can kind of see him in the game and be like, oh, okay, he had a nice inning here. Maybe that's some momentum for him.
And CC says, but Strahm, Hoffman, and Kirkland can't do it all. I mean, that's the purpose of having the bullpen. I feel like Estevez, Strahm, and Hoffman, they're your go-to guys, because this isn't the regular season where if a guy throws a lot of pitches one night, then he's automatically out for the next night. That's not always the case. It's the playoffs. You always have to be ready. Edwin Diaz threw close to 40 pitches the other night, and then he comes in today and he's throwing over close to 30. But I mean, it didn't really work out for the Mets. But Kerkering, I'm not confident in him this season, or at least in the postseason. Strom has been a little shaky. Hoffman, it's a 1 game sample. So I don't really know how to feel about them right now, but I just think that you need to rely on the guys that are going to get it done. Rob says the Mets bullpen is suspect. They will give us balls to hit. We just need to continue to be patient. Phillies in 5. Yeah, the Mets do not have the greatest bullpen. Obviously, Edwin Diaz boosts it, but I'm not a huge fan of that bullpen.
Yeah, they're good. Obviously, they dominated in game 1, but yeah, they're absolutely a bullpen that an offense of the Phillies caliber should be able to get to. They showed us that they can do it tonight, so they just got to keep doing that, which is a little bit scary, especially since we're in New York. The Mets have a solid bullpen, but yeah, you're going to have to get to them again if you're going to win the series.
I feel like the Phillies just have to be a little bit more disciplined. They're just swinging a little too much on those like low and away pitches. It's like, all right, stop those breakers. Like, stop swinging at them. They need to be a little bit more patient. They need to get to some more full counts like we saw towards the end of the game, because they did settle down. They settled into the game. It just took them half of a game to do that. So if they can just be patient in games 3, 4, and 5, if it gets to that, they're going to be in a good position.
And it might be easier to do that in New York, because like it feels like in Philly, especially today, with like the crowd's going crazy, it's a big moment. You're like, we're at home, the adrenaline's flowing. I need to get a hit here. In New York, it might be a little easier to take because you don't have the crowd going insane behind you.
Interesting from Ryan. He says, for the record, I would totally watch a live stream of y'all commentating the actual game. Is that even possible? Yes, it is. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe that's something we can talk about. I know that on Tuesday, I don't know if it'll just be, I think we'll be with Tony and Frank too, because they'll be live from Big Head's pub, little pub. They're the Cotillo and Groovy show. So we'll be probably live on that. I know the game starts at 5, but I think Tony said he's going to work around the schedule at the pub. So maybe we'll be able to do that. So we'll see. If we can't do it for game 3, we'll certainly try to do that for game 4. Big win tonight. Huge. This was for the season. They would not, I really don't think that they would win any more games. Maybe one more game, but going to New York 2-0 with how hot this team is, no, I don't think they would have won.
It would not have mattered at all. So yeah, save the season.
He said in game 1, we beat ourselves by swinging at balls out of the strike zone. I don't believe in the Mets bullpen. They are mid at best. That's true. Phillies, their biggest enemy is themselves. You look at Edmundo Sosa. He has one of the highest chase rates in the league. Phillies are well above average as a team on chasing pitches. So we are our own worst enemy. And if we just, like you said, Parker, if we are just disciplined, especially Trey Turner, he swings at those all the time. I don't see any reason why the Phillies can't win the World Series.
Yeah. Trey Turner, JT, Schwarber, all of them just need to just be a little bit more disciplined, feed off of Harper, and I feel good about where they're at.
Ethan says he's with Rob on this one. The Mets are mid at best. Yeah, I would agree. Like we said, Padres Dodgers is right now. Fernando Tatis first inning home run, so Padres are up early. Yu Darvish, known Dodger killer, like a career 2 ERA against them. He's on the mound, so I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but is this early lead for the Padres? Is that going to matter?
I think so, because it's must win for them. Similar to the Phillies, down 1-0, you can't go down 2-0. The Dodgers are too good for that. So yeah, anything they can do to get momentum. So that's huge for them to have that, even if it's a little cushion, just to have something right off the bat is great for the Padres.
Yeah, Dodger killer. You said it best. Yu Darvish has to come in. He's got to deliver tonight. So that'll be that's a really fun night game. This series, Padres Dodgers, is just electric.
many people are probably going to watch it because all the Dodgers fans are going to watch the Cowboys play too. But first 2 games, heck of pitching performances. Hopefully Nola keeps it going. There's one person, and I do trust Nola. I am concerned with his home runs, but you've seen Nola in the playoffs. He normally pitches very well. So what are your – I know we'll talk about it more on Tuesday, but right now, Sunday night, how confident are you in Aaron Nola?
I'm more confident in Aaron Nola than I am the Phillies as a team performing, just because the starting pitching has been so solid. I need everyone else to step up around Aaron. But yeah, I absolutely trust Aaron Nola. There's nobody else. Him and Zach Wheeler, especially on the road. I wouldn't want anyone else on the mound. And if we have to go down, do it with Nola on the mound. Like you got to beat our best guys. And so, I trust Nola every single time.
Yeah, I do like Nola a lot. I feel like he's got diversity. He's like a well-rounded pitcher. You know, he's got like an all-around game. He doesn't just shoot threes. You know, he's not like a Steph Curry type. So he's pretty good at a lot of different pitches. Mm-hmm. So I like that diversity. I think he's going to be able to feel out the pitchers. And I like that JT is going to be calling the game. I mean, I feel like they're just chemistry with all the pitchers is really good. So I think it's going to be a good duo. I'm excited for it.
All about the knuckle curve. That's when, if Nola's knuckle curve is on point, then he goes far. But if it's not, he gives up 2 home runs a game. But that's enough Phillies for right now. We'll talk about NFL Week 5. Just a quick recap. Vikings, they're 5-0 now. That was, I don't know if they were favorites or not, but big win for them. Rodgers has, I don't know if it's more or as many 3 interception games than Zach Wilson last year.
Same
crazy like that. Jags win their first game. They were the favorite. So I guess the favorite technically won that game, but Jags finally look the way they're supposed to look.
Yeah, Brian Thomas, the rookie, he is electric. I think an 85-yard touchdown in that game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's 1 win. Good for them. It's better than no wins.
They beat the Joe Flacco led Colts.
Yeah.
So you take it, but yeah. The Commanders, we talked about them in the pregame. That was a really impressive win. Despite Jaden Daniels not even tearing it up, they still dropped 34 on the Cleveland Browns defense. The Browns aren't great. Their defense is their strength. So that was very impressive. And then the Cardinals beating the Niners by 1 is huge for them. Divisional rival. The Niners not looking great. I haven't heard much talk about concern for the Niners, but they haven't been playing amazing.
Yeah, and they were winning, I think, by 13 at halftime, if I remember correctly. So that's a collapse. I mean, that's the definition of a collapse there.
Yes, Robert.
So and then you had what I felt like was the game of the week so far. If we're talking NFL, you had the rivals, Bengals versus Ravens, and wow, holy cow! It went into overtime. Ravens ended up taking the win by 3. So electric game, spoiling Joe Burrow's 5 touchdown performance.
The Bengals offense can't be any better than they were, and it didn't matter.
I think Zach Taylor needs to go. I don't think they're gonna make it even close to playoffs with Zach Taylor as the coach. I was never a big Taylor guy. I mean, he had that one really good year, but ever since then, he's not that good of a coach. So I just think the Bengals would be better suited with someone. I could see that Brian Flores going there if they don't hire a coach in season. I feel like he just fits there. It's defensive coach. You don't really need an offensive coach because you have the offense. You just need someone to get that defense together. And Flores has helped the Steelers defense last year and now the Vikings defense, who are arguably the best in the league right now. So I could see Brian Flores going to the Bengals. But getting back to MLB real quick, CC said, can we petition MLB to keep the early starts for playoffs? For us fans in Scotland on a work night, tonight is okay. Tuesday night with a 5-hour time difference, not so much. So we got you watching from Scotland. That's pretty awesome. Going worldwide. But I want to hear what do you guys think about the early playoff games?
I think that 4, 5 o'clock. 4 o'clock's probably pushing it. I think 5 is good. 6, those ranges. The wild card, when we got games starting at 2, kids aren't out of school yet. That's too early, I think. But 4 and 5 seem like good times.
Yeah, I feel like, especially during the week, right? During the week when people are working, it's a little bit tricky because usually you get off work at like 4 or 5 p.m. So you want to try and, I mean, they're all about making money, right? So the MLB wants to make as much money as possible. Starting games around 4 or 5 p.m. does make sense because you can fit the West Coast games in the night window. So I just think if you start any earlier than that, you're not going to be capitalizing on like viewership just because people are going to be working.
Yeah, they always do this. They make the early game in the divisional round and the wild card. Obviously, they have like the 1, 2 o'clock games, but once they get to the championship series, it'll be back to normal because it'll be every other night. 1 Central team's guaranteed to be in it. Right now, it's looking like Cleveland up 1-0, but anything could happen in there. So they're Central time. Yankees are Eastern, so there's not going to be a West Coast time there. So I'm sure all games are going to start at either 7 or 8. But I like the earlier games on the weekends because a night like this, the Phillies are done. Now you got Sunday Night Football. You can go and finish that. So I'm a fan of early games on the weekend. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense for the weekdays. But again, for the international fans, it's huge because, I mean, the MLB, NFL, NHL, anything, they base it around America because that's their number one market. So they base it around the fans there. So for international fans, it's huge. Like, international fans are tremendous. They're huge for growing the sport. You saw with the NFL today in London, that stadium was packed. It was awesome. I love it when the NFL goes global. MLB, they need to do a better job with getting the game out there more. You have all the blackouts with MLB TV. Kind of a joke, but yeah. Aaron Nola, Game 3. Going up, it is Sean Manaea for the New York Mets officially. So we will be here live on Tuesday. I believe the game starts at 5. Have to talk to Tony. We'll see what time specifically because I don't know if the Cotillo and Gruby show is going to go on earlier, and then we'll all just be on there together. So we will keep you guys in the loop. Make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, pressing that notification bell. You get notified as soon as we go live. Make sure you're heading to Win Daily using that code JIGSAW, 75% off your first year. And make sure you are following all Philly all the time on all socials. So we will be here Tuesday. Aaron Nola for the Phillies, a must win again. Game 3s, they usually decide it. So final thoughts, guys, how you're feeling for tonight and what you're getting ready for upcoming.
So excited for Tuesday. Obviously winning this, if we had lost this, it would just be like, get this series over with. But Phillies gave us hope. We're still alive. Game 3 feels like the series. So they gave themselves a chance. And Tuesday is going to be another stressful but fun game.
Yeah, they revived their season today. Harper revived their season today with his home run. So I'm looking forward to the Game 3 for sure.
It's going to be something special. This has already been a crazy series, and I'm sure it's only going to be crazier. So that's it. We're done. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. We'll be back here on Tuesday, so we get one day to be stress-free. So have a good night, everyone. Stay fresh. And as always, go Phillies.